All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome. It's my pleasure to call to order tonight's meeting of the Richards Bay Regional Agency. It is Thursday, May 8th. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Board Member Burke,
Present.
Board Member Karapiet,
Here.
Board Member Moulton Peters, Vice Chair Ryan.
Here. Thank you. So at this point, I'd like to open up the meeting to any members of the public who would like to make a comment to the board on items that are not on tonight's agenda. I'll start with members of the public in the forum in the chambers and then move to online. Is there anyone in chambers? Seeing none, anyone online who'd like to make a comment on?
There's nobody online for a comment.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'll close the general public comment section and we will move on to item 3, which is board member nomination and election of officers for the vacant positions. Do we have a staff report?
Yes, thank you, Chair Ryan. This is the election of officers for the term of July 1, 2025 to June 30, 2027. The recommendation is that the chairperson calls for nominations to and election for the office of chairperson and vice chairperson for the term of July 1, 2025 through June 30, 2027. I'm going to the background is what I've discussed in the past. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. I'm just going to jump to the last 2 paragraphs of the report, which are the pertinent items. And that is that the staff now recommends that the chairperson call for nominations to and elections for the offices of chair and vice chair for the term of July 1, 2025 through June 30, 2027. All members of the board are eligible to serve in the position of chair, and all members of this board, except for Vice Chair Ryan, are eligible to serve for the position of Vice Chair. And one item to note is that we're just going to make the election tonight. The swearing in will take place before the meeting in July.
Great, thank you. Do any of my colleagues have questions for Executive Director? Are there any members of the public who'd like to comment on item 3? Anyone online? No? So I'll close the public comment and bring it back to the board for discussion and motions. I will happily volunteer to be nominated as chair. If anyone wants to make a motion, I'm happy to continue on in that role, but if anyone feels differently, feel free to.
I'd be honored to make the motion to nominate Jack Ryan for chair.
And I'm delighted to second it.
Thank you both. Do we need to do a roll call or can I just call for a voice vote? Do a roll call vote on this? Or
I'm happy to do a roll call vote.
no, let's do a voice vote.
Okay.
All in favor, just say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? No, so that passes 3-0. And then for the second item, assuming that your willingness to volunteer still stands, Director Karapiet, I'd be honored to nominate Director Karapiet as vice chair for the 2025.
And I'd be delighted to second it.
All right, all in favor of that?
Aye.
Say aye.
Do I
yes,
vote
absolutely.
for myself? Oh,
Please do.
2-1. Aye.
And not opposed, so that passes 3-0. Thank you.
Congratulations. And thank you both for
My pleasure.
Setting up.
Thanks. Thank you. So we'll go to item 4 now, which is reports and comments. And we'll start with the executive director report. Over to you, Brad, please.
Well, thank you. Thank you again, Chair Ryan. This is the Executive Director's Report. This reporting period is March 1, 2025 through April 30, 2025. As usual, I'm just going to hit the highlights. Obviously, in tonight's budget, tonight's agenda, the final budget report is done. Discussions continue regarding future state funding opportunities. More information is expected when the state budget is published. I believe the May revise comes out next week. I'm going to jump down to BCDC. The presentation to the BCDC Enforcement Committee on March 12th, 2025 was postponed due to a quorum issue, and a presentation dated later this summer will be selected. I reviewed and commented on the Sausalito eelgrass restoration plan. Under housing, we now have 22 people housed. 16 vouchers are issued. Some vouchers have 2 people on them. 3 people have transitioned to the Federal Housing Choice Voucher Program, the HCV. Under current activities, 3 people are in the housing search and 5 people are gathering documents for 4 vouchers. 11 people have been referred for an HCV, and there are 8 people currently on the HCV waiting list. Finally, on the housing, according to the housing dashboard available on the HHS website, as of April 10th, 2025, there have been 44 people housed from the Anchorage since May of 2023. This includes the RBRA program and other programs available through HHS. Vessel buyback, one vessel turned in. Harbor Master Malcolm will have more on that later, I'm sure. Under Richardson Bay, a marine debris removal project led by Merkel and Associates began on April 26 and ran through May 1st. The results of the removal and the full report will be included in my next report, but I think everybody has seen the press release that we put out earlier this week. There were over 2 tons of debris removed from the bay, and I just like to mention that it was just a very, very small portion, less than 1% of the eelgrass protection zone that was cleaned up. We will be doing more cleanups. Under eelgrass, Coastal Policy Solutions continues their monthly meetings with the eelgrass project partners. 9 acres of eelgrass have been restored, and the next restoration effort is planned for the end of this month through June, early June. Under Sausalito, working with CPS and city staff for Anchorage signage on city property at Turney Street. Under grants, I received upgrades on all of our grants and grant balances and applications. Item number 2 says that no word on the 2 grants was submitted. Unfortunately, we did hear back from the Boat US grant today, right before this meeting, and we were not successful in that grant application. RBRA applied to the Division of Boating and Waterways for a boating safety and enforcement equipment grant on April 30th. Under public outreach, both Rebecca Schwartz-Lesberg of CPS and I participated as public commenters during a KQED radio broadcast. Each of us were interviewed with the San Francisco Chronicle on an Anchorage update story. And RBRA participated in the ranch's Earth Day event on April 27th and was represented by Deputy Harbor Master Lesberg and CPS. And under general information, I was requested to and did attend the Division of Boating and Waterways Marina Guidelines stakeholder group and provided comments on their updated document. There are 2 attachments to my report, and I would entertain any questions if there are some.
Thank you very much. I actually have one quick question. Does the county HCV, do they give you an estimate as to how long it takes? Because they have 8 in the queue. Like how long is that? Do we expect that to take to find housing for them?
No,
Oh.
they don't, because that's the question. And well, no, the HCV is the federal Section 8 voucher. Those have expired for the year. They are usually reinstated with the new budget. They'll know in June is what they tell us. But given, and we discussed this last time when we discussed the budget, given the information that is trickling out from the federal government, we really don't know. It's up in the air. So if we have more information when we see the federal budget, we'll be sure and advise the board. We'll put out some information, but we really don't know what's going to happen with the HCVs moving forward.
Gotcha. Thanks. Do my colleagues have questions?
One question, 2 actually. I noted the inventory of items found in the eelgrass. Can I get my PlayStation back?
Certainly, you might have to watch it out.
The grant denial, does that have any impact on your plans or operational activity going forward?
No, not really. I mean, we'll still apply for grants. They are operational grants, and they're kind of like, what are we envisioning we could do if we had some
Okay.
funding?
Right.
So it supports some of the programs, but really it was envisioned to do an extensive survey and cleanup. We've got surveys and we've got cleanups in the EPA grant. I just thought that, look, I knew what we were going to find. And there's never been, as far as I know, an extensive survey and cleanup of the our entire jurisdiction.
Right.
So that's what, I mean, it was a big ask,
Okay.
but that's what we were envisioning.
Well, related to that, so you've tackled 1% of the eelgrass. What funding sources are there out there to pursue a larger scale cleanup? Does BCDC or MTC, where do you look for the funds for something like that?
We look everywhere, but the grant pool is slowly evaporating.
Mhm.
And So whenever we have, I mean, Rebecca Schwartz-Lassberger is real good at searching for those types of things. We find them, they come across all of our desks, but things are really tight with grant funding right now, especially for these type of programs. And a lot of what funds these type of programs are NOAA grants, EPA grants, and anybody that's following the news knows what's happening with those. So I would say that our only other opportunities would be some private organizations, some private donations, so things like that, some, concerned citizens that want to support our operation. Ironically, our JPA allows for RBRA to take funds for projects like that. We've explored, a Friends of the Richardson Bay private group in the past. We haven't been very successful, but if the opportunity for grants aren't as readily available, maybe we'll have more time to pursue something like that.
So have you had any engagement with the Marin Community Foundation at all?
Very minimal. I was in contact with them last year, unsuccessfully. Although Rebecca and I, again, she helps us with our grants, about a month ago, we started looking into that again.
So I attended a lecture presentation that Rhea, the CEO, did last week. And they are a $3 billion entity, of which $1 billion is contributed by approximately 850 families or private individuals, and they're donor advised or donor directed. So there's about $1 billion worth of local money sitting there that could be accessed through the donor advised side of the foundation. The remaining funds, the $2 billion, is governed by a variety of checks and balances, and it's not a huge amount of money on an annual basis, actually. But Rhea is interested in what she calls asset mobilization. She wants to activate donors to direct their money, not just accumulate piles of money. And she also comes from a strong environmental background. She ran NRDC under Obama, and that's a big theme for the foundation. So I would just encourage you to maybe take a look there. Again, not from the foundation proper, but from its donor advised branch.
I will contact you outside of this meeting
Please.
to get some more information,
Yep.
if that's okay.
Yep, happy
Great.
to.
Thank you for the information.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks. That's fascinating. Any other questions? No. Are we prepared to move on to the Harbor Master report? Thanks.
Thank you, Director Ryan. Directors, this is the Harbor Master report. For tonight's meeting, reporting period covered here would be from February 28th of 2025 through April 30th of 2025. For our vessel metrics, we have 6 vessels on Richardson Bay, which are qualified and currently involved with our housing program. 2 of those vessels are in the safe and seaworthy program. Those 2 are qualified for housing. As of the writing of this report, as of April 30th, there were 0 transient vessels on the anchorage. We had 1 vessel with a valid 30-day permit, and we have no vessels with 30-day permits in processing. We have 1 30-day permit in violation of that permit. The person on board that boat is qualified for housing. We have 3 vessels under enforcement action, 2 of which are qualified for housing, which brings us to a grand total of 13 vessels currently on Richardson Bay. We had 6 vessels in the designated anchorage and 7 vessels within the eelgrass protection zone. For significant events this period, 4 vessels were removed or departed from the anchorage. A 60-foot motor vessel was removed from the eelgrass protection zone and surrendered to the RBRA vessel buyback program. The vessel owner surrendered the vessel in conjunction with the RBRA housing voucher program. 1 vessel was removed from the anchorage and impounded as a result of a nuisance abatement warrant obtained from Marin County Superior Court. This vessel remains under impound, awaiting potential action from the vessel owner. A 2nd vessel was removed from the anchorage under impound in accordance with RBRA Code Section 4.06. This vessel remains under impound, awaiting potential action from the vessel owner. A small sailing vessel which was abandoned on the anchorage was removed as marine debris and disposed of. In the beginning of April, staff assisted Richardson Bay Audubon Center in recovery of the sanctuary closure buoys, effectively opening the bird sanctuary to boaters for the summer season. On April 27th, staff participated in the Town of Tiburon's Earth Day celebration. RBRA staff and representatives from Coastal Policy Solutions were able to connect with people at the event and discuss RBRA activities and eelgrass initiatives taking place on Richardson Bay. On April 28th, our marine debris cleanup had commenced as part of the Environmental Protection Agency grant for eelgrass protection and restoration. The first 2 days of cleanup by RBRA contractors utilizing tender vessels and divers have yielded several tons of debris recovered from the bottom. Debris includes anchors, anchor chains, batteries, plastics, other flotsam and debris. Several more days of cleanup are scheduled to continue into May of this year, with more potential cleanup days in the coming weeks. For our citation program, one citation was issued for violation of RBRA Code Section 3.04.010, anchored greater than 72 hours without a permit. That vessel has since departed Richardson Bay. That concludes my report. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Harbor Master Malcolm. Any questions for the Harbor Master?
I have a simple question, just understanding a little bit better. When you say the vessels remain under impound awaiting the potential action from the owner, what are their options?
We give vessel owners of impounded vessels opportunity to pay impound fees, which impound fees include our costs for impound. Once they pay the impound fees, they are able to retrieve their vessels.
Okay. And then after a certain time, you dispose of them.
After a certain time, yes, the vessels are disposed of
Thank you.
if they're not retrieved.
Well, thank you for that. At this point, I'd like to open it up for the members of the public to comment on these two items. Anyone in the chambers? Seeing none, anyone online like to comment? No? Okay, so we'll move on to item 5, which is the consent agenda. And I'd like to ask if there are any members of the board who would like to pull any of the consent items. No? Are there any members of the public who'd like to comment on any of the consent items? Anyone online? No? Okay, so I'll close the public comment and I'll look for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All right, and that passes 3-0. Thank you. So that was item 5. Moving on to item 6. Oh, it's budget time. Excellent. So could we have the staff report on the budget?
Certainly, thank you, directors. This is the fiscal year 2025-2026 final budget. Staff recommends this board consider the final budget for fiscal years 2025-2026, and after discussion and public comment, adopt resolution 2511 approving the final budget for fiscal year 26. There is a motion attached. I'm going to go through this. A lot of this is redundant from the last report, so I'm going to skip through if that's okay. The fiscal year 26 final draft budget is balanced and reflects progressive implementation of the agreement with the BCDC. The draft final budget shows an anticipated 10% decrease in revenues, a cumulative 4% increase in staffing costs over the adopted fiscal year 25 budget, and a cumulative 3% decrease in non-personnel costs. This results in a nominal decrease in total expenditures of $89,01. Balancing the fiscal year 26 budget is achieved by requiring a 3% increase in member agency dues. Under the background, nothing has changed since the last report. The items that have changed are the last 4 paragraphs of this section, which I'll go through. The agency's annual budget is the main fiscal planning tool used throughout the year. This is the final draft budget for the period of July 1, 2025 through June 30, 2026, and includes an estimated $390,000 in revenues plus a 3% increase in member agency contributions of $1,166,349. Member agency contributions are based on an anticipated expenditure of $1,556,349, resulting in a balanced budget. The updated project annual fiscal year 25 revenues is the only change between the draft preliminary budget and the draft final budget and does not impact the total revenues, expenditures, or any line item allocations in the fiscal year 26 final budget. Grant revenues and expenditures from the Environmental Protection Agency for eelgrass restoration work, including the vessel buyback program, and from State of California for the Temporary Housing Support Program were recorded in the fiscal year 24 budget. And a separate board agenda item recommends carryover of the board's revenue and expenditure authorization for these multi-year grant programs into fiscal year 26. This board reviewed and adopted the preliminary budget and Resolution 2506 at the meeting of March 13th, 2025, with no changes to the preliminary budget. The draft final budget for fiscal year 26 is a balanced budget that represents the commitment of this board and to responsibly administer the public funds entrusted to it and to execute the responsibilities of the RBRA in an open and transparent manner. Staff recommends this board approve Resolution 2511 adopting the final budget for fiscal year 26. And there are 3 attachments to this report, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions? I don't either. I'd like to ask the members of the public. Does anyone in the public want to comment on this item? Anyone online? No? All right, seeing none, I'll close that and bring it back to the board for discussion and or a motion.
My only discussion point is it's well-crafted and thoughtful. Thank you.
It's too late to get the county to pay all the member contributions, even though she's not here.
That's why she's not here.
It's never too late.
Yeah.
You know, when you're not here, things happen.
Yeah, right? You gotta be some penalty. Okay, anyone like to make a motion to approve, to
So
adopt
moved.
resolution 2511?
Second,
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. Aye. And none opposed, says that passes 3-0.
Thank you very much. Chair Ryan, I'd like to add or ask one thing, and given that the county's out here, it's a great time to ask. I'd like to propose an ad hoc committee to discuss the fiscal year 27 budget, next year's budget. There's going to be a lot of moving parts. I think the county should be involved in it. I would love to have Director Moulton Peters part of the committee, but I'd love to have a couple of board members that I could just bounce some ideas off of while I'm developing the budget for next fiscal year.
I mean, I think that's a great idea. And would it make sense generally to have the chair be one of those two? And then, I'm certainly happy to do it.
I would think so. Yes, you and the Director Moulton Peters would be great.
Oh, that's a great idea. Do we need to do anything formal to?
No, it's
Make
an
that-
ad hoc committee, so
Okay.
it's informal.
No, I love that idea.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you for
Thank you.
bringing that up. Yeah. Okay, that takes care of item 6.1. 6.2 is an item on RBRA code section 3.04010 revision. Do I have a staff report on that, please?
Yes, thank you very much. Staff is recommending an introduction of an ordinance amending section 3.04.010 of the Richardson Bay Regional Agency Code to set forth the conditions for nighttime occupancy of vessels without permits in the Anchorage area. There is a motion included with the report. Under background, the RBRA adopted an ordinance code in 1987 and has subsequently amended the code, with the latest amendment occurring in 2024. RBRA has specifically developed policies and procedures regarding vessels in the Anchorage and non-Anchorage areas in recent years and continues to monitor conditions in Richardson Bay, community feedback, and developments in other jurisdictions to inform its enforcement choices. Safety is a key RBRA priority, and RBRA Code Section 3.04.010 has enabled RBRA to promote safety in Richardson Bay by requiring permits for persons who anchor or more for over 72 hours, and by authorizing unpermitted anchoring in limited circumstances in the Anchorage area for less than 72 hours. After a review of similar policies statewide, RBRA recognizes that its existing permitting requirements do not address nighttime anchoring. For example, the city of Dana Point and the city of Newport Beach require continuous occupation of a vessel anchored overnight. Requiring overnight occupancy ensures that high-intensity nighttime weather conditions do not render unoccupied vessels a risk to nearby life and property, a situation that has occurred on Richardson Bay within the past year and many years previous. This code amendment proactively addresses the gap in RBRA rules by adopting best practices and adding an additional requirement that vessels anchored overnight be occupied and that the occupant is capable of operating the vessel. A competency requirement further serves the cause of safety off and on the vessel. RBRA retains discretion as to whether and when to exercise these enumerated authorities in any particular case. Staff will return to this board on July 10th, 2025, and seek final adoption of the ordinance code. There is no fiscal impact to this ordinance. There are attachments, which are the ordinance and the resolution. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to entertain them.
Thank you for that. Do we have any questions?
I have a question. So there's no impact, but somebody, if somebody's not on their boat, doesn't somebody from the harbor master's office need to be out on the water to check? Or, I mean, does that expand their hours? Or are you a 24-hour operation? I don't know.
It won't expand their hours. It's putting notice on people that they need to have their vessel occupied, that you can't just leave a vessel on the anchorage. If we have that and it goes on, we can then pull in the harbor master, working with the county sheriff, and go site the vessel, inspect the vessel. But as a rule, we're not going to go out at 3 o'clock in the morning and inspect to make sure, but somebody's on the boat. But we'll be able to tell.
So the other question is 4 hours. Was there a rationale behind that particular number or?
Actually, it could be any number, but the rationale is that if on a calm day and a recreational boater, say, coming into Sausalito and wants to anchor and go to dinner, that's not an inappropriate request. As long as we know they're coming back to their boat, we're hoping with this ordinance, people will be more communicative with the harbor master of their intentions while they're in the anchorage.
Okay, great, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. That took care of my question. So thank you for that. Are there any other questions with respect to this? So at this point, I'd like to ask members of the public if they have any comment on this item. Anyone in the chambers? No? Anyone online? No. So I'll close the public comment period, bring it back to the board for discussion, and welcome Director Moulton Peters. Looking for discussion and/or motion to direct staff to open the public comment period.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, just say aye.
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 Aye. Anyone opposed? No. So that passes 4-0. Thank you. That was 6.2. And so now we move on to item 7 is just the announcement of that the next board meeting will be held on July 10th, which is also a Thursday at 5:30 right here. Before I adjourn, are there any other announcements or reports from any directors? Executive Director? Yeah.
Yeah, I'd just like to put one thing out there for the July meeting. I know that our scheduled meeting for July 10th is close to 4th of July holidays and whatnot. So I'm going to pull the board early. We should have a meeting in July, since we only have meetings every 2 months now, that if maybe there's a better date in July to have a meeting, maybe closer to the middle of the month. So you expect an email from me next week, just saying what everybody's schedule is looking like for July.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And then with that, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming, and thank you. Yeah.
Were you on traffic on Tiburon Boulevard?